Of crypto with English. So I'm going to preface this episode with a brief statement. So if you saw last time with our guest Robert Atchison, he essentially provided us with almost a macroeconomic view of NFTs, NFT art, and where the industry is going with this. Now we're going to almost have a microeconomic and perhaps a more narrow but exciting view of this. We have somebody coming onto the show who is going to essentially be a barometer, creator, and essentially litmus test for the next wave of NFT art, NFT art houses, and NFT artists. So I would like to warmly introduce Joy Katharina Lorck-Schierning. She is the co-founder of Studio 90s. So I'm going to throw a few new terms out here for everybody. So this is a decentralized art studio and artist collective. So we're effectively in the Web3 era of technology, especially with blockchain. Well, this is an artist collective and art studio utilizing Web3 and blockchain. She created this with her fellow co-founder, Guy Jonathan Kazumba. They're cultivating and engineering the next wave of NFT art, NFT artists, and projects. So if you look at art, you look at fashion tech, a lot of this is going to be coming from their studio. So we're going to talk about some artists like Sad Buns, NFTpreneur. Our guest today, Joy, she is a NFT artist herself. We're also going to cover people like Picasso 2021. We're going to cover people like Kijana, Katong, Medici Da Vinci, and others. Joy, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Adam, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful that we got this live stream to work. It's always very exciting, I feel, to be able to actually also create great live experiences and engagement through how technology enables us to essentially do this and not have to travel across the world to be able to have a conversation. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to just be here and to try to help demystify a very exciting opportunity for anyone who is a creator, and it's not necessarily restricted to art or so. You know, if you can create something that you can somehow digitally reproduce, then this is something that would probably be very interesting for you to listen to, because it's just a very exciting opportunity.
So let's start with you, just to give a little color and context to. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe that was just, no, that was a sound maybe from the door. I told you.
Oh,
I'm in my
okay, no
sister's accommodation house in the UK at the moment, her student house that she shares with friends, and
no worries at
I'm
all.
occupying the bedroom space at the moment, but I hope that the sound wasn't bad.
I think it's fine. So just to give a little color and context to this episode, how did you bring your two passions together, art and entrepreneurship, and how did this journey lead to creating Studio 90s, which is effectively an artist collective? And you could say this is going to be an art show house, effectively. So this is going to be a hub where you're going to be bringing artists together, and these artists are going to collectively. From where I'm standing, this effectively looks like an art house, an incubator for NFTs. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so with Studio 90s, it really was kind of like the point from which we were able to build a new, entirely NFT-focused operation. And when I say that, I'm going to add background now, which led us up to this point of why in June, 2021, we exclusively became NFT-preneurs, as we call ourselves. But you can also call us NFT entrepreneurs, because at the moment we are exclusively focused on multiple different kind of ventures, as well as just different types of points within the NFT blockchain space where we're adding value, as well as creating, but as well as also really providing support to other very passionate, ambitious artists, which was the whole idea of why Studio 90s is also a collaboration house. And we have a wonderfully diverse group of globally positioned creators who all in their own right do their own thing. But I mean, I guess you could look at Studio 90s as think of like a tattoo studio or so, where you have special artists who will stop by from time to time, and that would be that unique opportunity to maybe get a tattoo with that artist. I mean, I'm not saying that we're doing tattoos with Studio 90s, but I'm just trying to illustrate an example of what we mean when we say it's a collective, because it's not like you're financially bound to us or so. It's more,
Right.
it's a community where we can collaborate, and by each of us knowing each other and knowing our strengths and knowing the different skills that we can bring to the table, the creative possibilities are just endless. And by having a strong network of creators that all trust each other, know each other, can all come together from like a very pure point where it's like, we just want to create. We don't want to really involve any personal politics or so within the
Right.
workspace. We just want to add value with the wonderful creations that we put together. And Studio 90s is that point from which we produce all sorts of different types of digital assets, as we could call it, whether it's an NFT, which is an MP4, or it's an MP3 file, because we also make music, and that's a very big point for Picasso, as well as for Marley. Music is huge.
Right.
So that's another thing that, and as well as having, Kijana as one of our artists, that's another example of a very ambitious musician who is as well, one of the future stars of tomorrow. But, since it's still very new, this is just kind of like that great space to enable us to connect with those who are serious and, really want to build some amazing projects together.
That's awesome. And as somebody who's in this space, why do you feel NFT art has taken off to such great, I guess you could say, height as far as popularity? Something that I think many were skeptical at first has now become a trend that is pretty mainstream. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that what NFTs as a keyword, I guess we could say that we can give what it means to actually create an NFT. So the beautiful thing about why NFTs have reached kind of more of like a mainstream point, especially this year, this has been that kind of year
Right.
where it was like slowly going up, and then and now we're kind of just really climbing on an exponentially
Indeed.
fast rate at which this is expanding, and it's just insane to be a part of it, which is why it's just as just anything in the kind of decentralized blockchain space, it's just so fast paced. It's there is no breaks, there is no stopping. Like if you
Right.
stop, you're falling behind, and it's a wave that's moving. But to get back to the point about NFTs, so when Guy and I were first pondering a transition from being in physical goods, and prior to creating Studio 90s and starting to also create other ventures as a result of identifying, pain points within the NFT creator space. And a big point of that is where our expertise comes in, which is what we were doing prior to NFTs. Was we were running our own, startup luxury fashion concept brand called Buvega, as well as, previously, prior to it being Buvega, it was called Bluebell Label. And that was the first startup of mine, which I founded in 2018 as part of my undergraduate degree, which is where I met my business partner, Guy. And we both finished our bachelor's degrees in business enterprise, which is one of the few venture creation programs of its kind offered at an undergraduate level. And so part of the degree is that you touch all bases, I guess you could say, from like a micro and macro perspective of what you would have to at one point deal with as an entrepreneur, from accounting to corporate law to, operations. We did everything.
Right.
And we applied what we were learning while running our own businesses. And that's kind of a part of the whole course. You actually have to found a business. You go through the whole VC process of pitching in front of a panel of angel investors. And the business that I pitched for back then was Bluebell Label. And in 2018, the idea that I presented was to develop the first luxurious face mask concept of its kind, which at the time, especially in 2018, was non-existent. And I can say that because, that was part of the strength in my pitch, was the fact that there was such a gap that, a lot of the more developed, of course, conglomerate fashion houses and so on had not really, I guess you could say, presented a truly suitable accessory to match the types of other products that you would expect to buy from an LVMH, Kering Group type brand, right? From the ultimate luxury fashion house brands. And so through having traveled in Asia and having been aware of this prevalent trend, I used that, and as well as I was having an awful breakout at the time, and it was just like I was having a horrible day. I was just like, I just want to hide my face. And so, of course, I went online. I tried to find something very luxurious because that's just where my mind will go. I will always want to know what is the pinnacle of what you can have in every type of category. Of course, being in luxury goods, I want to know, but I couldn't find anything. And that led us down the path, which essentially went through a whole R&D process. The whole thing took place in London, and in 2020 we filmed our first kind of debut campaign, where we actually showcased the collection after like 1.5 years of just straight trial and error development to just completely revolutionize a kind of neglected concept altogether. And to this day, there has actually not been a design that really surpassed the vision there. But it was very interesting how there was a lot that blocked that ever from fully happening. It was just like we were so ahead of our time with what we were developing, and also being a startup. Yeah, I know. And everybody who met me, it's quite funny. It's kind of a joke. Anybody who met me prior to the pandemic starting to really take place. And of course, I need to say it was, of course, a fashion accessory. And it was the materials that I was going to use to complete the accessory, which is what was going to qualify it along the lines of it being a luxurious good. And of course, just the design and everything. And it's very exciting because that will have its moment too next year when we get back to the part where we're really fashion focused. But prior to that, we had to make a decision around kind of, springtime this year, with all that's was going on with all the supply chain disruptions and just the uncertainty of how we were actually going to go through the traditional processes of actually like developing a collection. Brexit was also a difficulty. I mentioned that, we completed our degrees at the University of Buckingham, that's in the UK. So I lived in the UK for 6 years to complete my A-levels, undergraduate, and then master's in money banking and finance and central banking, which gave me a great macro perspective and just also really helped me get closer to my personal interest, which has always been in blockchain, cryptocurrencies. I've always been fascinated by it all. So, NFTs was like that missing keyword for, and when it finally resonated what it was like so much started to crystallize together. And it's because of the marketplaces that exist now, like OpenSea, Rarible, Nifty Gateway, all of those marketplaces, which essentially enable creators to very easily upload their art. This is the game changer. We're not in the beginning kind of phases anymore of the world of kind of decentralized blockchain development. We're at a stage where we're really, it's at such an advanced level now that the entire process which you would have to traditionally go through in fashion was all of a sudden no longer relevant, because technology enables us to generate hyper realistic garments now. And that's why and this is the very, very cool part about why Studio 90s is just a really great space to keep a real eye on, is we have one of our Buckingham alumni has also joined the NFT train, and he also has his own fashion brand called Prep Corp, which will be releasing on the 30th of November on Rarible. And yes, our friend Bobby Akitoye, he has pursued his kind of angle of NFT specifically in fashion, and it's very cool because he's showcased his garments prior to the physical good actually being there. But that just opens up so many fascinating doors as well about like lead times of production. It flips the whole traditional way that you would have to like go through, the R&D. Like I went through the whole traditional process of what it takes to develop a fashion concept. With
Right.
NFTs now, just everything that's been enabled through the marketplaces that enable designers to sell items to anyone who wants to buy. They can download it. They can also resell it. You can attach whatever you would like to, which is then upheld by a smart contract, which we all love because there's no human error in the process anymore either. Now it's just you establish what takes place, and then it's just automated, and it's a real game changer for how far we've come. And it's amazing when I walk through malls now and I look at shops, and for me, I feel like I'm in a museum
Right.
because it's just the furthest thing from a reality we're going to be living in anymore, because it's so unsustainable with the current ways that production and waste as a result of production, especially in fashion. It's just not gonna be something we can do forever. And so this is kind of really that next step in how we also move to a much more sustainable way in which we purchase fashion, we wear fashion. You can wear garments now and not even have to buy it. And everything that people live is online anyways. If it's not on your social media or so and you can't brag about it, then it doesn't count. And that's why NFTs is also so interesting, is because it's essentially become also a trend, a fashionable trend to wear your NFTs as your profile picture now, which
Right.
people pay very, very big amounts of money for to own. Like that's the crazy part. Well, people will pay to own a specific type of profile picture. You Nobody could ever say that something like a realm like this could ever go away, because these are just different gaps in the market that just hadn't been addressed. Of course, the fashion of a profile picture and NFTs also enables that to be a way that people can literally brag about, saying that's what oh yeah, that's my profile picture, that's my profile picture, I bought this board game, anything. Like it's so yeah, there's
Right.
there's lots of layers that one can go into about how NFTs just change the game entirely if you're prepared to learn and you're prepared to really understand. It's really not that difficult to do that. But there's a really big point in the the operations of running an NFT project, which is marketing. Marketing and branding is so key. And you're not just an artist in NFTs, you wear multiple hats. So that's why for us as entrepreneurs, it was the easiest transition ever to just understand where we are going to be creating the goods, what type of goods, what type of assets we're going to be producing, and then we run the rest of it like you would a business operation. It's just we're not affected by real supply chains at the moment, which is a very big issue. And again, it's a decision we had to make back then too, in addition to the supply chain disruptions, to also have to face the facts that in order to stand out traditionally in a very overly saturated market and just world in general that is fashion, this was that creative solution for us as a startup to utilize all of our creativity, our designs, our talent, our branding, to put together creations like Sad Buns and others, of course, as we continue to release more, and we have many in the backlogs. So I mean, this is only the beginning for Studio 90s, but you had to start somewhere. So Sad Buns was our first NFT where we really got to just trial and error the whole experience of becoming NFT creators, because it's a process. You do have to onboard
Absolutely.
yourself to become an NFT creator, but once you do it once and properly, and you really see how this is a way for individuals to, for example, embrace a path of entrepreneurship, who studied graphic type or artist or digital art type degrees, who unfortunately, and I know quite a few, and that's why I guess I can speak from this, from having listened to the stories from friends of mine who have studied this at university, like games design and so on. And it's this the jobs are scarce in like the 3D modeling realm too, and it's a very competitive world. But that doesn't mean you're not talented or so. It's just such a cutthroat kind of game, and there's such few opportunities that NFTs just completely opened up for all of these kind of almost blocked creatives to really just dive into the opportunity to at least just test it out of what it would be like to just be an NFT-preneur, you know?
Well, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned something about pain points earlier. So, with, regardless if it's an NFT artist or let's say an NFT fashion designer, what would those pain points be if the artist is to put out a piece of work like an NFT painting, or so to say, or if the NFT fashion accessory designer is going to put out, let's say, like a virtual jacket, something like that. What would those pain points be?
So you would need to make sure that you have everything set up so that you have your marketing and your community management on point. Because without your community in the NFT space, you don't exist. Because if
Right.
people don't know about you, how are they going to discover you and love what you're doing? So honestly, being an artist is maybe like 10% of the process. And so if you have the talent to create something in some digital form, which you can then mint onto the blockchain, which I guess you could say the way that I describe that, because obviously I don't expect every single viewer to know exactly what I mean when I say I mint something onto the blockchain. But I guess the best way that I describe it, and it seems to work, is to compare it to the process of uploading a photo onto maybe, let's say, Facebook or something like that. It's
Right.
literally, to really simplify it, it's basically the same thing. You upload an NFT onto whichever marketplace, which is on whichever blockchain protocol you choose to have your NFT connected to. And there are options, which is the cool part as well. You're not only restricted to one anymore, because as mentioned, we're in a much more advanced stage in the game. We're not back in the beginning still, where we're still really building. Now we're at the point where it's just become so sophisticated that we really have that chance to really onboard the mainstream into using cryptocurrencies, having digital wallets, having more of some type of connection to something to do with Web3, which is where we're going anyways. So this really just helps kind of onboard maybe, let's say, non-techies or so, to
Sure.
also start to get into an industry which maybe they hadn't previously thought there would be prospects. Because literally anybody can get into NFTs, because somehow your skills will be applicable and useful if you're willing to learn and adapt. And I keep going back to that point. And of course, to be a creator, you also really have to define your story, define your brand. You really need to have integrity to your community and what you say and your roadmap. It's like a business. You have your mission
Right.
statement, you have your communication line with everyone. So the branding and the community management and the social media presence is just so important. You can't get away with not doing it. And I know a lot of people don't like social media, and that's where I'm mentioning a pain point where, Guy and I really come in with our marketing assistance agency, as well as like brand consulting and so on, called Metatrix, which will also be very activated soon. And that's focused on literally helping artists who need that support with promotion, with marketing, with branding, where they might be lacking. in being able to do it, and a lot of people, they just don't have the grit and energy to just desensitize into these platforms. And there's no other way to describe it. You just have to you just have to like just keep doing it until you love it. But once you love it, you really be at that point, you're completely submerged into the digital space of NFT creators, because the whole community is also online, right? Because it's a global community. So if you want to be a part of the creator community, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be on Twitter. But Instagram is I mentioned Instagram as being a slightly more important platform for us from a kind of promotional marketing perspective, because we're running like 40 plus repost pages in like relevant to the space, which gives artists across all those pages so many opportunities to receive amazing exposure and to actually really stand out, because we spent the entire summer building these pages from scratch and also connecting with the creators in the space. It was an amazing way to really just submerge in. That's what we did right at the beginning. And I'm going to give that as a tip to anyone who's interested in actually just starting their journey. You need to be on Instagram, and you need to follow all the pages on Instagram, follow the artists, because that's how you will just submerge right into that niche, and you will learn a lot. Because if you're not engaging and if you're not networking, it's unfortunately it's too advanced now for you to just get away with being an artist. You need to be ready to treat this like a business. But it's worth it, of course, because we've never, Guy and I have really both just said, wow, the amounts of fascinating individuals that we've connected with in these past, this past like summer, and now we're nearly at the end of the year. So it's been a hardcore 6 months for us of just full-time NFT. But it's amazing. It's changed our life forever. We are so grateful to not really be in physical goods at all right now, and don't even need to be, which is just incredible, because until you do it and you actually go through the process, you don't have a promise. I mean, we used every single skill we had and put that into Sad Buns as our first debut of our skills, our baseline quality, the example of the type of novel creative work that we can produce, the story behind it, the community, but also like our very like positive ambitions with trying to use what we create to also open up sometimes uncomfortable conversations, I guess you could say. I mean, in the case of Sad Buns, a part of the movement is really, we own our sadness. And it's like a double meaning, of course, because if you buy a Sad Buns, you become an honored member at the Melancholy Club, which is our virtual community space where all of our collectors can hang out and engage. But it's also a space that we've built so that we can also just be open, because everything has been so intense, especially with the pandemic and separating everybody, that it's great to find solace in these virtual communities. And I think that that's the other thing that makes NFT so fascinating, is that you really meet a lot of people, and in the first point that you connect with is art. It's like going to an art show or so. And I spent my childhood attending countless events with my parents. They both love art. My mother's a photographer as well for fun, and an artist, and my sister's an amazingly gifted artist. So it's like full creative family of that kind of experience there. And I feel like this is just, it's like another face. It's the Web3 face of that we're heading into now, as the world is just onboarded into a much more digital kind of space, and we're at that point as well. And that's the interesting thing in fashion too, is that the question is, who are you online and who are you offline, and where are you investing more now? We're really at that point where you got to ask yourself that question when someone is considering what they're going to buy. the idea of being able to buy, let's say, garments that you can then wear in the metaverse when you go meet your friends, and you get to wear these clothes that you own, and you have this amazing avatar. Like Fortnite is an amazing example of that world, right? For kids, they go there, and creators of these garments, they make fortunes off that. If you can really like create some beautiful beautiful garments, and you can then arrange it so that people can then buy that and wear that, that's the question. Kids are in many ways the next generation too. They're kind of really eyeing that direction of buying skins and clothes and stuff that are digital, versus maybe spending that amount on the physical, on a physical item, because maybe you're getting more as well for spending it digitally, because overall the digital space is also there to make things more affordable and more accessible, which is
Indeed.
why everything about blockchain as well is so interesting, with tokenization and so on, how more and more people are getting access to goods that maybe they hadn't, or just ownership in general that they hadn't maybe previously had access to, just because that kind of price barrier. But yeah, we've flipped everything kind of from,
Right.
and I compare it from like a brick and mortar type entrepreneurship, the classic like practical entrepreneurship, which is what we were trained in. We were literally trained entrepreneurs, and we were trained to build businesses, and you can transfer those skills very easily to building an NFT creation of company, like we've done with Studio 90s, and have a creation like Sad Buns, and we're the marketing executives for Cyborg Crypto Elite, which is another fascinating project. ER 721 tokenized project, and the artwork again is very special. It's very different.
And you know what? Actually, you've given me a thought. So I would like to ask.
That's just the art side from the
Right. I wanted to ask something quickly. So, as as an entrepreneur and effectively as an NFT art studio owner, what do you look for when taking on an artist? Now, you mentioned community, and I'll say this from I guess this is just anecdotal observation. Every major NFT artist that I've experienced and seen, they at least have some sort of Discord channel, or they have a
Mhm.
Telegram channel, or something on Signal. What other parts do you look for when deciding, okay, I think this artist will be good for the studio, or maybe this artist needs a little bit more time to mature as far as their work and style? Like, what things do you look for?
So that's the beautiful thing about Studio 90s. There's not any one right picture. It's more the creator and the attitude and energy that they have as a being. And of course, if they fit in with the way that, like as I mentioned, it's not about politics for us. It's about
Right,
creating and adding value with our creations, and really defining our mark in the modern day Renaissance era. So if you want to connect with us, and you want to be a part of what Studio 90s as a community collective is, then what you have to be is just ready to work, and to be serious and to be passionate. And if you are all of those things, and most importantly, you're ready to really work,
right.
we are so open to provide mentorship as well, and consulting. And this is something that Guy and I, we really do happily. But yeah, you, I don't think that you could at this point in time really say that someone's like work per se is or isn't ready, because I guess we don't need to exclude anyone. It's more about your work ethic, your attitude, your ambitions. If you have big ambitions, you're willing to work for it, and you're willing to also like listen or communicate, have a conversation. We're not saying we know
Right.
everything. What we want to do is have a conversation. We want to bounce off ideas. We want to identify blind spots where, maybe I wasn't able to see something, or anyone didn't identify. But by having the ability to speak with multiple individuals who are all trying to create in this space together, and to also share where you were able to learn, and shorten that learning curve for someone else, so that they
Right.
have more good times than, just kind of, more blood, sweat, and tears times. Because
Right.
not that you're crying, we like, I'll cry for joy, because I'm so happy to be an NFTpreneur. Because it's really
Right.
a beautiful space to be a part of. It's more just like, you just have to work. That's the thing. You really just, you're working. I mean, we work anywhere from like 16 to 18 hours a day to just
I can
bring
imagine.
everything all day, every day, because it's a 24-hour thing. Like, it takes on a life of its own. And if you're ready for a world like this is definitely the world for you. And again, the barriers to entry in this particular, um, sub part of the blockchain is there for anyone to embrace now. Still, you still have that chance to completely change around where you were to where you want to go. And if you ever had like entrepreneurial ambitions, this is a really like seamless way to test those waters, and not even have to fully drop everything that you're doing. Let's say you have a job or so, you can start creating and become an NFT creator and still maintain your job. But you
Right.
absolutely need to have the Discord community ready, prepared, and to be able to just bring as many people into that kind of community that you control, and also can also engage the audience with, and actually really share a lot more about what it is you do, from like I guess a more personal level, as well as you, the brand, really connect with literally your collectors. And I think that this is something that needs to be kind of a part of everything, including like every fashion house and so on. Maybe it's not a Discord. I don't know what a suitable alternative would be, but something like a Discord, I think, is absolutely essential moving forwards. And if big brands do not focus a little bit more on actually setting up these ways to really personally manage these communities,
Yeah.
I think they're missing a really, really valuable way to connect, which just didn't previously exist
Right.
up
Didn't
until.
exist before.
Yeah.
So, and that brings another question to mind too. So, I am relatively new when it comes to the art world and NFT art. So maybe the answer may seem a little bit obvious, but as far as an art house, especially an NFT art house, so what resources does it provide to the artist? So, like for instance, for the sake of NFT art, would an art house essentially provide the Ethereum gas, essentially, essentially the computer output, and I guess you could say the blockchain output to actually create a piece of NFT art, for instance. Like, I guess depending on what time of day it is, the ETH amount is, it ranges in amounts, so to say. Would the art house provide like the Solana tokens or the Binance Smart Chain tokens? Or is it more just like they provide advice, guidance, mentorship, and maybe connect the artist to like virtual showings or something like that? How does that relationship work?
So the way that Studio 90s is set up is that Studio 90s is a privately held company by Guy and I. We're business partners in this, and we both own it equally together. And the thing about Studio 90s is that is our production house, which we, with in collaboration with other artists and our contractors as well, use to produce our own art. Just like a Disney or a Marvel.
Right.
Studio 90s is that for us, because we just have so many so many ideas. It's
Yeah.
more, we just had more time, we could just activate more, and we're continuously like trying to onboard more people as we try to scale to get more content out. But yeah, no, so the idea behind Studio 90s is, obviously, since that's our company, we pay for everything ourselves for our our whole operations, because as mentioned, it's like our Disney, and we use that because we just have so many ideas. Why restrict ourselves to only kind of creating brands that are separate when we could actually just have a kind of nice house roof where everything creative from a digital perspective takes place, is how we kind of keep things separate, because Buvega and Bluebell label, Buvega Nares, that's all couture group, because that was where we were prior to entering into the NFT space, which is more the luxury good concept development. And Studio 90s is in that realm where we are really playing with all sorts of different digital design softwares, music production. And so it's just a strategic way to keep it separate. But the way that it works with Studio 90s is that we can work with the artists as much or as little as the particular project in question requires. So in some cases, we could just be doing a collaboration, and then obviously it's an equal share with how we would split that with the artist. And that's the beautiful thing about smart contracts. You just set it up. You don't even have to you just get to go create. It's so beautiful how that just provides so much solution, as well as obviously also having the ability for creators to receive royalties for essentially the lifelong selling and reselling of their creations, which is also a really big point that was not available in the traditional way that our world was set up prior to NFTs really stepping in to enable that now. So artists can receive royalties. And also, of course, we have the wonderful verification opportunity as well, enabled through the blockchain, because it's all just a transparent open ledger system, as we know. So it's all there. You can check if it's real, if it's fake. You can see where the NFT originated from. These are all layers that have been lacking in the traditional kind of art world, which has been real problems to do with all sorts of forgery and arts, especially, fashion. I mean, it's a whole like career in itself to be just searching for copycats and illegal production houses. So yeah, this is like a huge resolution, just from the perspective of like utility. It doesn't even need to just be an art NFT. You can tokenize real physical goods, and that's something we're really looking at exploring when we release our Sad Buns toy figurine collection, which we're so excited about also getting going too, because there's just so much in the plans for the Sad Buns brand. Just like a Spider-Man, that's its own brand. Sad Buns is its own brand.
Absolutely.
Studio 90s is like, Studio 90s like our Marvel, like I said, or like a Disney. But, our studio is there to just, like you say, it's a collective, and it's also an incubator, because it's through connecting with these different types of creators that we want to enable for even more creation to take place, because somebody who's especially skilled in this type of software. They're good in, I don't know, like Photoshop, the other person's really good in Maya, the other person's good in Blender, and combined, you can put together an amazing brand, because somebody's doing the logos and the development of all of that. Someone can do the 3D modeling, someone's obviously actually sketching the visions to life. And it's just that point where everyone we connect with on our journey, as we grow, as our repost pages grow, as we launch even more. We have a news publisher platform site, which is literally coming online in the next couple weeks. NFTpreneur.io is going to be an amazing thing. We have been working since we basically started this path to really just refine this picture, so that when you go to NFTpreneur.io, you learn it all. You're able to just access all the different layers, kind of in the realm of blockchain, from the perspective of like blockchain, crypto, DeFi information, metaverse, but also NFTs, and to then really dive into having access to events, NFT drops, because we have it all kind of integrated within the website. So however much you would want from us, whether you're an event organizer and you want to essentially present your event through NFTpreneur, or if you are a creator, we have an entire section dedicated to interviews because of all of the creators that we connect with on Instagram. We are able to really also showcase an entire generation of creators that are not necessarily receiving the spotlight from traditional press, because they just don't have access to these creators. And obviously it's just, there are just specific ways that things are done in a corporation versus how it's done in a startup setting. So for us to just be in the trenches with the creators as creators, but also as entrepreneurs, doing our research, getting to know everybody, you also really get to know a lot of people that it's like, oh, if only they had the spotlight hit them.
Just to interject quickly, speaking of creators, tell us a little bit more about Sad Buns and maybe some of the other artists you'd like to showcase on this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So as before about Sad Buns, Sad Buns it's a brand, it's a movement. It was authored by Picasso. He was having a really, really tough day when the inspiration came to him, and he was having a moment that we're all very familiar with and have all experienced for sure at least once in our life, where we reflect back and we feel sad inside. And obviously we were already in NFTs, so this creative cue to just constantly be drawing, constantly be documenting down your what you're envisioning was already a good habit. So with the channeling of how he felt, he created Sad Buns. But Sad Buns came to him when he was thinking about, how much he missed playing football. The pandemic really stopped a lot of very great, very positive things in people's lives because everything shut down. And, it was also a very, very big transition to go from essentially, finishing an MBA, which is what had happened. And then all of a sudden choosing to partner up with me and to run Buvega together. And that's what we, formally started doing this year, and Couture Group. And then from there, Studio 90s, Sad Buns, it all evolved from there. But by both of us partnering up and choosing entrepreneurship over going for, let's say, a job to work in a company, we both dived into the cold, deep, whatever's coming, come what may. We got all the training we needed to do this. But yeah, he was really able to channel a truly real and beautiful phase. I fell in love with Sad Buns when I saw the first drawing, and these drawings, these first original Sad Buns drawings, are just insane, and they'll be in a museum one day, and I hope to have one of those drawings as well, because they're just so cute. But so the thing about Sad Buns, of course, was when he was drawing Sad Buns and he was thinking about his life path, and no matter what, to choose his path for himself regardless of whatever his family or his peers were thinking. That was a bunch of emotion that went into a drawing. And also, Picasso loves creativity, loves to draw. That was a reason why he was exactly so perfect to be in Studio 90s, to be a part of everything creative that we do, because he loves it. He has the talent for it. He just, had to follow more of a classic, business path or so. Not that he doesn't also love the entrepreneurship side of it all. It's just that, it's like you have permission through NFTs to really tune into a creative side that is not necessarily rewarded in other types of, I guess, companies. Like if you went to a bank, you're probably not going to get endorsed to create artwork. Okay, it's okay. It's just the way that it
But the
is.
ironic thing is, the very wealthy, they almost always collect art. That's the, I guess, the irony there. I think it's a bank is not going to traditionally lend you a sizable amount of money, if any money, to, let's say, create an art studio or create a piece of art. However, as far as trends, the very wealthy, whether it's in the United States or Europe or elsewhere, collect art and collect real estate. So I find that very interesting. And you know what? I always want to know, what determines the price of a piece of art? This could be real and or NFT art. Like how NFT art going into the millions, and even as low as $3 or $4. So let's say if I'm an artist and I want to start out, what should I know about pricing, and how should I price my art too?
So this is where the social media presence point comes back to being the reason why I say, you're not going to get around it with this one. You have to really build that brand, build that presence, is because the more fame you have, the more of an advantage you'll have as well with really getting people to adopt, but also with your price point. So in our case,
Good to know.
obviously, we are in the kind of pre-sale stage where we wanted to really connect and play it out over time as we slowly release very limited batch numbers per week, keep the community engaged, have drops. We also have meme competitions. We have like the most amazing community, and I can only recommend to everybody to join our Discord, because it's just one of the funnest places to be. It's very positive. But yeah, so when it came to sad buns, we were actually trying to encourage people to adopt. And so therefore, we needed to also focus on prices being affordable, but also, competitive too. It's not like
Right.
I mean, really, when you think about the type of NFT we've created, and then you look at what our current pre-sale, prices are, because we want people to adopt sad buns. And then you compare it to other NFT projects that might be charging way more, and you just get so confused by the whole thing. Or
Right.
just like the media stirs up crazy stories. They're like, oh, kid draws the line on a paper and sells it for like
Right.
$500,000 worth of ETH or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, something like that.
it's clickbait.
Definitely
I
read
mean,
a
it's
few of
kind
those.
of clickbait anyways, as we know. I mean, it's not as extreme or polar black and white as that. Really, it's not. But
Indeed.
you have to always think about it from the perspective that, and I'm a big, like, I'm a really, really big sneakerhead. I love sneakers. I absolutely love sneakers so much. And you have to look at this, like, think about the resale game of sneakers, but that, and then translate it onto NFTs, because it's a long-term game. Especially seeing as you as a creator are going to be receiving royalties every single time that digital art piece resells. So it's all about the resale market from an
Good
investment
to know.
perspective. But from a collector's perspective, as with anything, it's subjective, of course. In the real art world too, what defines a great artist? Well, it's obviously his talent, the era, what he was capturing, the difference, the style. It's so unique to the individual that I don't think that there's any one answer of how you define the price. But I can definitely say that if I'm giving advice, think about adoption, think about making it incentivizing enough to basically sway collectors to buy your art, get to know you as the artist, get to know the brand, grow with the community as the brand grows in popularity, assuming you're doing your marketing right and your PR right, which, as I said, you have to do, because otherwise you're not going to be able to really achieve remarkable results, like astronomical results, if you don't think long term. So try to think about it more as like you want to encourage adoption and retention. And I know those are points that are very common in tech too. You know, those are key
Indeed.
points that you want, especially retention. So by making an NFT affordable in the beginning, you also increase your chances of retaining a lot more followers over time who will also buy that t-shirt you release or that hoodie or that figurine because they love sad buns so much. So there's more to be collected surrounding that concept too. And it's always good to think beyond just being very kind of mono focused and saying, oh, I'm only doing NFTs. Like Sad Buns is a brand. It started as an NFT, but it's so much more because of the potential, the exponential, like scalable potential, which a novel 3D figurine creation like Sad Buns really enables us as a company to monetize from and really focus on, because we spent all summer building Sad Buns and perfecting Sad Buns before showcasing Sad Buns to the world. And we're perfectionists. We wouldn't have released it if it wasn't all perfect. But another thing we did learn, though, to shorten this process for others maybe too, is as soon as you have that idea, you need to open that social media account and you need to just follow all the repost pages in the NFT space and just start growing your followers. Grow your followers. This is a beautiful game because it's all about building up hype. And the more time you give yourself, obviously, the more people you're likely to hype into being a part of your launch as well. The way that we did it was we obviously developed it to play out like a game, but prior to that game starting, we could have actually been really anticipating it up, but instead we waited to first have the completed product, as is traditionally the kind of case. You would first have to get the sample made, and then once you get the content, then you create your profile. I mean, anyways, we're fine. I mean, on Twitter we have like 12,000 followers. On Instagram we have nearly 10,000 followers. So it's growing. It's growing, but it takes a lot of work, and but it's worth it. It's worth it, but it requires a lot of work, and you definitely just need to treat it as more than just art. But
Awesome.
adoption
And
is
just
key.
to interject, so going off that, so if let's say hypothetically I'm a new green amateur NFT artist, I want to create NFT art. As far as a strategy, both stylistically and business wise, is it better that essentially I create a collection where there's essentially one I guess you could say overlying theme, so to say? Or is it better to create kind of individual pieces, so to say? Because I've seen both out there, because I've seen artists that create a collection. So let's say hypothetically, since our business is based out of Miami, let's say I, Adam English, I want to create NFT art of palm trees. So I have some in blue, I have some in different fluorescent colors, in red and yellow and green and so on and so forth. Or would it be better just to create NFT art of separate themes and separate items, so to say?
I don't think that there's not any one cookie cutter shape that I could offer someone. It's more a content game anyways, so it's all about volume. It's all about volume. The more volume of new novel content you can create, the better. And have lots of it. That's the only thing that I can say. This game is all about content. The more content you have, the better. So in every way that you could create the collection you just described, from that extract and try to maybe create like another collection entirely, and try to have maybe even like a few at once just kind of running. I mean, obviously you need that community management, you need to have that whole setup, but you could have multiple collections. You could create you could focus on one collection. You could create like we did, with Sad Bonds, or with Cyborg. Cyborg Crypto Elite is, as I mentioned, that's one of those 3D. That's one of those generative projects. Sorry, I can't talk anymore.
No worries. Continue.
I just realized I was like confused. Anyways, but still, it's one of those 10,000 unit tokenized collections where each NFT is a completely unique NFT, and there's no two like it, which is and it makes sense why like a board yacht ape club style
Right.
generative art NFT is so interesting, is because that's your profile picture and you're the only one who can own it.
Right.
Of course, in
So that
our
gives me
case,
yes. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say what we did with Sad Buns. It's set up like a game, so we have 12 different Sad Buns, but of the first edition collection of our first 12 Sad Buns, we have different rarities amounts within each respective color type category. We have different textures, music integrated within the NFTs, so you're actually collecting the number in our case. So let's say that there are 75 reds. You can collect from numbers 1 to 75, but that's it. There will never be any more to ever exist. But that number is unique because there's only one red, number 1 red out of 75, number 2 red out of 75. And so we've set it up in a more, I guess you could say, just again, it's just a different way to do it. But you just need to have your branding on point. You need to have your marketing, your story, your community management set up, as well as a manager, because it is a full-time running system that does really need to somehow always kind of have someone manning the ship and really just making sure that the community is being taken care of, because this is the new face of customer service management. This is for whatever the community needs. They get in touch with us through our Discord. That's where all of our communications take place with our collectors. And so these are just points to consider, that it's more than just art. But if you're prepared, the opportunity is so open. It's never been more open. Now is the time to absolutely get in. And it's really not a scary process to learn yourself into. I always find it so unfortunate, and that's why I, especially like thinking about it from like an entrepreneurial perspective, that you want everything to make sense and you want to extract the logic and everything. And I do try to do that too when I explain blockchain to people, NFTs. I try to be that conversation that for once made it just click a little bit more than the mind just shutting out and they're not taking anything that you're saying. And so that's why I really try, for every time I get a chance to have a conversation, to try to just make it make sense. That's something I'm very passionate about doing, because there's just so much opportunity. It's a case of just helping people onboard into this world that you and I are aware is so fascinating and wonderful, and it's our future. So
we're coming up on time, but I do have 2 final questions for you. So for anybody that's an influencer or a celebrity, would you recommend that they have their own NFT? And
absolutely.
Secondly, as far as upcoming entrepreneurs who want to create essentially an NFT art house or an NFT artist collective, what advice would you give them?
Well, so obviously Studio 90s is very unique in how we built it, but anybody who would be looking to open a production house just you really need to do your research. You need to do your research, and you need to integrate yourself into the space. You need to connect with creators. You need to go on Instagram. You need to go on Twitter, because that's where all the live action takes place. I would definitely say make sure you are active on LinkedIn. And I say that because I'm very active on LinkedIn. I know that LinkedIn is just such a wonderful space. It's how we connect with some of the most fascinating people. And so if you're a serious entrepreneur, you absolutely need to be using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your best friend in this. If you're serious, LinkedIn is your best friend, because right now is the time to meet everybody in the space while you still can. And because, you know, at one point, if you join and all of these success stories are so far gone, you will probably not get your chance to
That's a good
speak with
point.
them in a few years. So LinkedIn is so important. I cannot describe how important it is for any serious entrepreneur in general. And beyond just celebrities, I think that NFTs will, in some form, be a part of all of our lives at one point in time anyways. And any brand, especially any brand with an already existing group of fans, needs to create NFTs, because it's just another revenue stream. It's not even like you need to stop doing something that you already do. I've had conversations where I've been asked about, oh, you know, what would a company, what would a luxury house have to do in this case? And it's like, there's no sacrifice in this. It's just an entirely new pillar and opportunity that you can focus on. And really, it's amazing, because obviously it's all digital, so you don't have to go
Right.
through the whole traditional R&D sampling process. And it's just a great time to really jump in and just onboard already into you know, Web3 anyways, because it's what's coming. So
Awesome.
it's, you just need to try to just motivate as many people as possible to see the light, and to also just start to adopt just blockchain in general into our lives in some form.
Well said, and I think these are amazing points that you brought up. And Joy, thank you so much for coming on to the live stream today. I'm very excited about what you're doing, and effectively, you're a pioneer in this space. There aren't too many that are putting themselves out there that are doing what you're doing. So I'm very excited to see what further artwork and fashion tech is going to be coming out of your company, especially Sad Buns, Picasso, some of your work even, and many others as well. So you know, we are at the newest frontier, and I think it's always good to be first. And I think you are among the first that are doing this. So, like again, thank you so much. I am definitely going to keep tabs on some of the great works that's going to be coming out of Studio 90. So, this was very informative, and again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Adam. I'm so sorry for the delay.
No worries at all.
I'm
Seriously,
happy
do
we
not
got
worry
it to
about it.
work in the end. I really thought it was very special that I got to be the Thanksgiving weekend speaker, and I really hope that some of the points that I was able to deliver made sense. And I really hope that anyone listens who did listen to this was able to derive value, because, you know, in the end, that's what we strive to do in however we're helping, whether it's like completely helping from a marketing and branding perspective and really supporting creators and entrepreneurs to really nail that part in their equation, because without it, you know, you're just not going to achieve remarkable results without that part being on point. Or whether it's through art production or just collaboration, you know, we've got ourselves kind of based on all points, so that in whatever way we can help and support, we're there, and we're able to use what we know and everything that we've learned so far to only find solutions, because there are only solutions, and that we can only keep going forwards if you just don't stop working.
Right. And I would tell anybody this: we may be at the beginning of another, I guess you could say, renaissance or golden age when it comes to art. So I would suggest anybody check out www.studio90s.com and keep an eye on some of these artists like Sad Buns, like Picasso, like Medici, and I would say even Joy's work as well, because I guess you could say the spotlight is going to be on this area in the very near future. NFT art houses and NFT collectives. And Joy, on a final note, let's have you back on in a few months, and let's really dig into the weeds about NFT art and where some of these artists are going, because it's not going to be, you know, Bored Ape Yacht Club forever. There are going to be newcomers onto the scene, and I think it's best to know about it first. So
And
I'll
you'll
end
find
on
out on
that.
NFTpreneur. You'll find out on NFTpreneur.
And go on nftprinter.io. I would suggest anybody check that out as well. Go through this process of self-education. It's not as hard as you may think it is.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. And I hope,
Absolutely.
all viewers have a wonderful rest of your Saturday evening. And Adam, thank you so much once more for
Thank
having
you.
me on. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine on this end. And listen, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll definitely be talking soon.
We'll keep in touch, Adam. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.